sound of the men working on the chain gang. Keep it strong. Ooh, ah, yeah. Ooh, ah. Oh, don't you know that's the sound of the men working on the chain gang. Don't you know that's the sound of the men working on the chain gang.
Can you hear me say?
Ooh, I feel good. Ooh, I feel good. You know.
Hey Barrett,
Hey man.
I just want to welcome everybody back to Five Star Baseball: The Truth, the podcast we do bi-weekly here, and we got a special guest today. One of my favorite players of all time, first and foremost, not because he was just that good, but there's a lot of reasons behind that. Great teammate, great person, and I want to introduce everybody to Barrett Browning. Barrett played in the big leagues. He played at every level, from Middle Georgia to Chipola to Florida State. Got drafted several times, turned some things down. So he's going to be helpful today in educating us on some different routes, how to get to where we want to get as players. You know, everybody thinks they have to, get drafted and they're right in the big leagues. So Barrett's a guy that, started out in JUCO and ended up pitching in the big leagues. So, Barrett, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you, and got a few questions for you, but you can kind of tell me where you're at in your life right now, and we can get going.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. It's definitely an honor to be on here. Obviously, you know how much I think of you, Shannon, not just relationship we have together, but what you've done for me in my career. As of right now, I've just turned 40. I'm married, been married for 15 years. Have two boys, one will be 10 in March, another will be 7 in March. I work at RYAM, which is a pulp mill here in Jessup, Georgia. I work as a pipe fitter and maintenance, and been there for almost 2 years in that department. And just raising these kids, trying to
living
keep
life, huh?
Yeah, running me ragged.
I hear you. Well, that's a good thing, And when Barry played for us, he played for us between 2000, 2003. Actually, he was on the kind of some glory years we had. We won back-to-back national championships when he was with us, and he was a big part of that. And the teammates that he had, and the things that he had done over the years, I think they stayed together and kept in contact. I know when I talked to some of his former teammates, they always ask about Barrett, and I have some questions that are going to be helpful, not only to our high school guys, but our middle school guys coming up, because parents, you're going to blink and your kids are going to be walking across the aisle. They're going to be getting a diploma. So as much education as we get today, and what I want to talk about is I want Barrett to explain the different levels, like how the adjustment he had to make from going to high school to JUCO to D1 into professional baseball, and then not only professional baseball, because it's a difference, as you know, Barrett, the professional baseball into big league baseball. So if you want to expand on that a little bit for us and kind of help our audience out a little bit on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, beginning with high school baseball, I mean, that, to me, when I look back on memories that I have of playing baseball and teammates, the things that I remember the most, that mean the most to me, I always go back to high school baseball and playing with the chain. There's just something special about playing for those that you live around and the community that you grow up in. And fortunately, and this may not be the same for everybody, but for me, it was easier to stay inspired in high school, just because I had the community around me and those folks who'd come to me and say, we're ready for the big game. We hope you guys do well. And that meant a lot to me because I see them every day. I grew up with them. I looked up to them. Moving into junior college, that was probably the biggest shock, just because I was completely out on my own. A lot of responsibility thrown on you, but when you're solely responsible for your academics and for your baseball career, most junior colleges, I don't think, are in it. And it's been a while since I've been in junior college or college at all, but most junior colleges, from what I have experienced, are not blessed to have 5, 6 coaches to help you with strength and conditioning and hitting and pitching and infield and outfield. And a head coach and a bench coach. You don't get all that stuff in junior college. So you're really solely responsible for the most part for both your academics and your school and your baseball. And it takes a lot of self-discipline. Whether you have it or not, you're going to either learn it or you're going to get going.
Right.
And I truly enjoyed my junior college experience. There was a lot of raw talent in junior college, guys that weren't quite as polished as some of the guys you might see in professional baseball or four-year schools. Just really talented, but not necessarily aware of how to harness that talent. And I was, one of those guys that the talent was there, but I was still trying to find my way a little bit. Moving to Florida State, that was probably the closest to high school ball as I've been. I chose Florida State because of the tradition there. I felt like it was home, and that was a big stage, the biggest stage I had pitched on at the time. And we played on TV, and you grow up, and I hate to even mention them, but that team in Miami down there,
Right.
care for them in Gainesville.
Right.
I won't even. To this day, my wife will tell you I won't even wear blue and orange at the same time. I won't wear a blue shirt when I'm hunting with my orange vest on. Ain't gonna happen. But there's a sense of pride playing at Florida State, and that is junior college. The responsibility of junior college times 100. I mean, there's so many kids and so much going on, and the coaches are so pulled in so many different directions with recruiting and
distractions on and off the field, especially off the field.
Yeah, that's right. And then, you get to the minor leagues, and it becomes a business. And as much as you love the game, and I can only speak from my experience coming from a senior sign, somebody that wasn't given a lot of money as a sign-on bonus. There's things that you're going to encounter that you may not have ever thought you would. You grow up being one of the better players, and along with being one of the better players comes a little easier route in some instances. To see guys, around you get passed up for those guys when you feel like maybe you're performing better or you offer a better set of skills, but it's not up to you. And then really you start kind of having to truly mature as a man in professional baseball because, when I was playing, I was in with the Angels my first 7 years. I was on the West Coast, and my family was asleep when we got done with the game. So whenever I have a rough day, I had to handle it myself, and that come through a close walk with God and, lots of prayer. And, you really have to grow up in professional baseball because it's you got you and that's it. Those other guys, they all want to make it too, even though you're buddies and the coaches. That's right. Everybody wants the same job, and the coaches, they're all wanting to put their name on everybody. It's not just you. So
Jimmy Haynes is a good friend of mine, and he said when he was in the big leagues, the hard part wasn't getting there. The hard part's always staying there.
Absolutely. And I played with the Angels for 6 or 7 years, and then got Rule 5 drafted by the Cardinals. So when I got to the Cardinals, which is the team I made it to the major leagues with, is an organization that was familiar with me, but the coaches at the minor league level and the roving guys weren't really familiar with me. So I was very probably the hardest part was I was the only one that truly knew my game. So if things kind of got off kilter a little bit, I was about the only one that knew what I needed to do to get back where I was at. So I had to stay on top of myself at all times to make sure that I was staying within my routine, staying within my game plan, and doing the things necessary that I knew were going to help me be the most successful. Have I come up through another organization and made it to the big leagues with them, those coaches would have been more familiar with me and my game and could help me in times where I may be struggling a little bit. That to me was probably the biggest thing in the big leagues was you either get it or you don't, and if you don't, find somebody to do it.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to. Is when you play for us, we're trying to. Everybody's not going to be in your position, and everybody's not going to be as talented as you were to make it as far as you did. But as you now are in the workforce out there every day, it's kind of the same thing in life. You got to get the job done and get a paycheck, and that's what we try to train our kids for. Not only hopefully to have that dream to play where you played, but to be able to support their family. and it's coming very quickly for a lot of our kids because baseball careers. I always say this: you're going to be a former player a lot longer than you're a player, so you better be prepared for the former. And so the things that you've done, is remarkable because I saw you grow up from a guy that was so athletic. You could run, sub-7 runner, left-handed bat, had some pop, things like that. And like you said before we had this interview, you were kind of all over the place, but you found it because you were smart. You made the adjustments. And, going back to that, when you were younger, I think I'll talk about the parents, and this is one reason we're doing this. I don't think I talked to your parents but maybe 3 or 4 times the whole years you were playing for us. They kind of let you grow up. I know they loved you, and I know their granddaddy loved you, and we love them. But I want you to talk about how they just I want to say kicked you out of the car and said, hey, you go figure it out. But they kind of did, and I think that was some of the best things that prepared you for what we talked about earlier, is making those adjustments, life adjustments, because the baseball skills were there, the life adjustments, to make you better as a player. So kind of tell me a little bit about the conversations you guys had, or your parents had with you as a young man to kind of help you prepare mentally, to make those jumps that you did.
Well, my dad was in the Army when I was growing up, now a retired major out of the Army. But a lot of my upbringing, I attribute to the lessons that he learned through the military, along with those that were taught by his parents. But, that a lot of that was revolved around self-discipline, having high expectations of yourself and living up to those expectations. But also understanding that there's a process that goes into being able to live up to those expectations. It doesn't just happen. It's formed by a series of carefully designed daily habits, a mindset of, rely on yourself and only yourself. And if you get help, that's great. If not, you got and
kind of bet on yourself kind of deal.
That's right. And knowing that the ride that you like to go on, it doesn't come free. There's a payment to be made, and that payment comes in the form of practice and work. And it can only be something that you can be successful at if it's something that you truly desire for yourself. And my parents taught me to work hard. I grew up, I don't even remember how old I was, but I remember laying brick and block and toting block to Papa when he was laying them, and my Uncle Clint, and building houses and mixing concrete and mortar. And they taught me from an early age, you're gonna work, you're gonna work hard. And it's not just because working hard's right, it's because there's a pride to be taken in it. And I really was able to take that mindset and develop it into a positive for me on the baseball side, because I knew that I wanted to play baseball. I truly loved it. It wasn't work to me. There was work to be done, but I enjoyed it. And so I pushed myself. My parents, they did everything they could to provide any avenue that I may need to improve my game, but they never truly, pushed me to do it. It was something that I would approach them and, I'd want to do this, I want to do that. And I can remember in Texas, my dad built a huge backstop with a blue tarp and put a carpet back hole in it for a strike zone, and built me a pitcher's mound. And I practiced pitching, and he'd put tires on post so I could hit them in the yard. Anything I needed or I wanted, they were always there to provide that opportunity.
Well, speaking of how they raised you, I don't know if you remember this, but your mom or dad never called me for your first time you came to Savannah. You called and left a message, and Mr. Ben gave me the message for me to call you. And it wasn't your mom, it wasn't your dad. I called you, and you asked me if you could come out and work out for us. And I don't know if you remember that or not, but that's how we connected. And that always sticks out. Our better players take care of their own business, and that gets into taking the next level, next step as a man, and you can always tell the ones that are going to be successful in life. And our guys, a lot of people talk about it, there's too much pressure, or I have high school kids saying that they want a college life, and when they sign, they don't want to play. And we were talking earlier, you were playing in junior college and you had the good birthday. You sacrificed, and you was already one of the top prospects in the country because you went in the 6th round when you was playing for us out of high school to Boston. And you were playing and you had a good birthday and you drove from Chipola, the panhandle of Florida, all the way to Tennessee in the middle of the night to play for us. But like you said, it wouldn't work. We have 18-year-olds now that I think, they're satisfied once they get there. And I think sometimes they got to realize once they get there, now it's just when the battle begins. Because everybody's signing on our teams now, as you know, it's winter. And I always put in there, now the work begins, and they look at you like you're crazy. But that's the truth. Now you got to go to work. Your senior summer, you got to put the time in. What we get, you never told me that. My good ones never told me, Coach, I'm just going to lay out my senior summer and I'm going to lift and run and, do everything on my own. But we all know how that's going to turn out. It's going to be chasing little Susie at the beach after about 2 weeks. We're real about it. You know how I am. And, they're going to go in as not the same player that was signed, but a lesser version of themselves. And these young cats don't understand. You don't earn your position in college after Christmas like you do in high school. You earn it in the fall. So being a freshman, number one, you're a nobody, as you know. You go in, you're nobody. You got to earn that position then. So what you said earlier to me, I can remember those guys, and it never was work for you. You wanted to come pitch. You wanted to come compete. You wanted to do the things to make yourself better. And that's why you got the reward that you did. And, going back to that, and we talked a little bit earlier about pressure. A lot of the parents and everything, they get triggered and they get pressured. Well, that's what life is, 3-2 count, bases loaded. Is it too much pressure? Let me know if you can't take the pressure. You know what I mean? 3-2 count, bases loaded. You're going to make a pitch. You're going to get a hit. You're going to make a play. Life's about pressure. And I want to let you talk a little bit about how you controlled your pressure so maybe you could help some of our young kids so I don't have to cut them, just to be honest with you.
All right. Well, I'm going to go a couple different routes with this. First thing I want to acknowledge is the time that I came through, the social media was non-existent. Right. It didn't come out till I actually was at Florida State. And I can imagine the young guys coming through now in high school that are getting some notoriety across the baseball world, being mentioned and notified or noticed on the social media platforms. It would be real easy to become Facebook famous and be complacent and be satisfied with that. It's understandable that I think a lot of these young guys get some publicity on these social media platforms, and they hear their name thrown around. You get all these different prospect rankings and this and that.
Yeah.
Those things are nice. I'm not going to sit here and act like I didn't shoot for those things, because it is nice to have some recognition in those manners. But truth of the matter is, I never wanted to be. My goal was never to be a top 50 person, to be mentioned on Perfect Game. And I'm not talking bad about any of these organizations by any means. I think they do great things for the game of baseball. But the point I'm trying to make is my goal was to be a Major League Baseball. There are some small wins along the ways, and that's some of them. But I think a lot of guys, young guys nowadays, they get caught up in that. They get a little bit of notoriety on these platforms, and they feel like they've made it. And and
Barry, we have guys that tell me when they call me, my son's ranked, and he's 11 or 12, 13 years old. He's ranked number such and such in Alabama and Georgia, and what do you think about that? And I've calmed down in my older age. It's like when you played for me, I tell you how it was. Now, I just kind of said, that's great, good job, Johnny. But it really means absolutely, like you said, it don't mean anything. You could care less. You need to be developing those skills. I think you need to be playing. But, when somebody comes out and they're trying to negotiate with me in the summer about how good their 12-year-old kid is, ranked in Perfect Game or any other association for that matter, it doesn't mean, for me, that's doing it like it doesn't mean anything, because there's so many variables. That kid might just be bigger and stronger than everybody right now. He might be at his ceiling, where you got another kid that's on the same team, is hitting leadoff, is built like an alien, and I look at him and go, hey, that's the kid that's going to be something one day, not this kid that's shaving at 12 and, you know, he's just, you know, like he dropped his kids off before he got to the game, you know. So, there, like you said, it doesn't matter that much. You know, if you have your goals like you had getting in the big leagues, and I can remember you always would ask me how the team is. You was a great teammate. You know, I had to like almost put a leash on you because you were, when you weren't playing, you were just, I mean, you wearing a hole in the dugout, you know, and getting on my nerves. Coach, can I hit? Can I, like, you know, no, sit down, shut up, Barrett. You know, I love you, but, you know, let us do our thing. You pitching tomorrow. You know, that's your job. So that, I can reel that in. You know, I can't amp you up. I can't make you a good teammate when the teammate, as you know, that gets all pouty when he ain't playing, he sits on the other end of the dugout. You know, what kind of character is that? You know, so, you know, go ahead and talk about that. I kind of got off track a little bit because it just, you know, when you try to help these guys, there's a lot, as you said, goes into making that really, really good player.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say you talked about, you know, 12-year-old, 11-year-old, whatever it is. I've never seen a 12-year-old get drafted.
No.
You know, so I can make up a web page or a newspaper and write an article on anybody, you know, and what does that mean? It means nothing. The only thing that matters if being a Major League Baseball player is what your goal is what those Major League teams think of. If you can, they told us all the time, if you can play, they're going to find you.
Right.
You can play, they're going to find you. You don't have to go be on, you know, this certain team or ranked in a certain ranking. Those rankings are irrelevant. If you think about, you know, I'm sure they do. Back when I was playing, they had a top 100 prospector. Well, they can rank 100 prospects every year, and how many of those guys are making it to the big leagues? I'd be willing to bet that, you know, there's as many or more in the 101 to 200 prospects.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not about who can put your name on paper the most or on the internet the most. It's about who is performing on the field. And I think that if people would focus more on their own development, focus on themselves, and how to better themselves on the field and off the field, because organizations and colleges all care about off the field as much as on the field. You know, unfortunately, there are some examples of, you know, some people that, I guess, according to their organizations, they're talented enough they can get away with acting however they want to, which I'm completely against. But
well, you know, I'll tell you back when you got drafted. I don't know if you know this or not. So Rob English, obviously, you know, drafted you out of high school in the 6th round. He was my old boss for the Braves, so we were really, really close. And I respect, you know, Rob. Rob's one of the best baseball guys I've ever been around. And I guess Rob called me up, and he wanted to meet me on I-95. And I tell the story all the time. It's about you. And it was, you know, yeah, he talked. He goes, hey, when's the first round? When are they playing in the playoffs? And I told him this weekend or whenever it was. And we met. We got all the way to Midway. You know where Midway is, obviously, coming from Savannah. And, you know, he told the story, and I say it all the time. He goes, what round of the playoffs are they in? And I said, this is the first round. He said, turn around. I said, sir? He said, turn around. He goes, I don't want to go down there and see Barrett strike out 18 guys and feel real good about it. He said, I want to see him in the 4th round when the shortstop makes an error and he's 3-2 count and he walks the guy and see how he reacts when things go bad, you know. And so that, to me, I always, you know, remember him saying that, and it was about you. And, you know, then he told me, you know, after he talked with you after a loss, you know, he knew that you were going to be in the big leagues. And he told me that. That's why he drafted you in the 6th round. And it was pretty amazing that some people can get that out of talking to a person after a loss. Not a win, a loss. And how are you going to go to work tomorrow? Are you going to sit around and pout? You know, are you going to get back up there when the sun comes up and get back at it? You know, and it takes a lot of, you know, you got to be a dog. You know, that's just a way to put it, you know. And
I think something that goes along with that too, Shannon, is I told these guys when I was teaching and coaching high school baseball, the most important thing to me is being a good self-evaluator and having the ability to accept responsibility for your failures or your shortcomings but not only just to accept responsibility for it, but to understand yourself and your game enough to look through what you've done and find out where the issue was, where the problems were, and what you need to do to correct it. And most of the time, as you play this game more and more, you learn, when I'm missing arm side, this is my problem. If I'm missing glove side, this is my problem. Missing up, missing down. You know,
you're your own best coach.
Breaking ball. That's right, and you have to be a good self-evaluator. And baseball will teach you so many things about life. And truly, that's the thing I'm most thankful for as far as baseball goes is the lessons it taught me on how to be a man and how to be a husband and how to be a dad. And like you said, Mr. Rob wanted to know, how I reacted after a loss. Well, a lot of that character that I've built come through, and I say I built, it wasn't just me, it was you and my other coaches and my parents and family and those support group around me. But, anybody can do good when it's going good, and it's when it's not going good, when the money's tight, when children are struggling and they don't have an answer, and you want to be honest with them, but you don't want to hurt their feelings. How do you handle that kind of stuff? And
I didn't have that problem back when you played, but anyway.
Yeah, but to me, being a good self-evaluator has helped me not only on the baseball field but also afterwards. Taking on different endeavors that I never saw myself doing, but I overcome some adversities that I didn't see coming. And I couldn't have done that without, the coaching like you and Coach Jay and 11 and Coach Brinson in high school. And, this game will teach you so much more about life than you could ever get out of baseball, I can tell you.
Well, I got a couple of questions for you since I think we've educated and hit on a couple of things. And I've never asked you this, but when you were young, growing up, who was your favorite Major League player? Who'd you want to be like in the backyard?
Jeff Bagwell.
Wow.
And that stance and them homers he was hitting, because was launching balls.
Okay. All right, got you.
And that bat glove with a big old pad on it.
What's that? I said, yeah, that's kind of what you took offensively to me too. When you was a 6'6" runner and kind of lived in the air a little bit, but that's okay. I still loved you,
That's right.
But and what would be one thing? What would be one thing that you would tell your younger self? Not to, because you played in the Ultimate League. So what's one thing that you would probably tell yourself or you would do differently to maybe have whatever outcome, better outcome, or stay longer, or do whatever, in your baseball career, for your life? What's one thing you would do maybe a little different?
There's a lot of stuff I would have done different. That's a tough one.
That's a tough one?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Probably do better in school so I didn't have to go back at 29 or 30 and finish college.
Yeah, I got you.
That was not fun, working full-time and going to school full-time. I had a lot of sleepless nights.
Well, I hate. And look, there again, that goes back to your discipline that you did it. Now, you got the Bo Jacksons and Deion Sanders and all those guys, you see them every day going back and getting their degrees after they've been at the highest level. You just said who you are right there. You weren't going to stop you at your age, and there wasn't nothing going to get in your way of what your goal was. And sleepless nights, heck with it, you did it, So you can always be proud of that. And
the thing is that education, it will pay you for the rest of your life, whereas your time spent in baseball probably won't. And excuse me, the job that I have now, I don't need my degree. But if something was to happen to that business that I work for tomorrow, I opened a lot more avenues for myself to be able to provide my family by having that. So thankful for having it. And there's no doubt I wish I didn't have to go back and get it, because that's way tougher than it would have been the first time.
Well, last question for you. And I always ask my big leaguers this, and I've been very blessed to coach a few of you guys. And I always ask this. The first day that you reached your ultimate goal and you walked out of that dugout and you walked I don't know if you was in the pen or whatever in the clubhouse and you walked out on the field. What did it feel like to know that you're a major leaguer? How was that feel?
It was amazing. One thing I told myself is don't look up.
Yeah.
And coming out of the bullpen that day, we actually got called up. We finished playing in Memphis at home. That's where I was playing in AAA, and we were loading the bus up to go to Oklahoma City, and got the call up. Called into Coach Pop Warner's office, and he told me I was going up. Went home, or my apartment, packed all my stuff, got all my stuff together. We drove in a little tiny car 4 hours to St. Louis because they had a day game the next day. They couldn't get us a flight. Anyways, a rough day, but I can remember warming up, and I just said, don't look up, because if you keep everything, from your hat build down, keep your head down, the stadium looks the same.
Right. Wow.
As the AAA stadium.
Never heard that.
You got dugouts, you got spaces, the same dimensions are close. Obviously they vary, but the biggest difference in the big leagues, if you look up, the stadiums go on for a while. They go up to heaven.
A few more people in the stands too, huh?
It'd make you a little nervous then. So coming out of the bullpen, I run in, and I'm not gonna lie, my legs were weak. I was nervous.
Well,
and probably the best thing that could have happened for me was Yachty was not catching that day.
Yeah.
And Tony Cruz met me at the mound. And I was like, thank God I don't have to meet Yachty at the mound. I'm already got enough going on. Need to meet Yachty, right here on the mound. So, but it was a great feeling knowing that my family was there. They traveled through the night to get there. My in-laws and my parents and my wife and her brother and my brother and my sister and her family. And, one of the best feelings in the world next to, marrying my wife and having my 2 sons.
Right. We got to go to a break. All right. We're going to take just a few minutes, Barrett, and we're going to come back with you. I got 1 or 2 more questions for you, and we're going to take a break and thank our sponsors. And as you guys know, I'm riding solo today. Coach Chad isn't with me, so all that breaking and all the things that go along with that, I'm a little bit behind. So give us a few minutes. We're going to come right back with Barrett Browning. Thank you. Hey, welcome back to 5-Star Baseball, the Truth. There again, we got Barrett Browning, former big leaguer, former player of ours, working with us and talking with us today. And Barrett, I got one question for you. Do you ever think I'd be doing podcasts in my life for people?
I didn't think anybody would. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't think anybody would let you in front of a camera. Unhinged for sure.
Big guy costs money, number one, and then I got religion. So I've had to kind of go back and, reassess how I describe you guys, because I got to apologize for all the things I put you guys through. I had nothing else to do but all-day practices and things like that. But hopefully we're going to get this alumni game going in May. I kind of dropped the ball last year on it, and we got the new 5-star guys that want to play the old chain guys. I'm still betting on my old chain guys. I'm
gonna have to be a bat boy.
No, I'm gonna take you. You might get the ball first game, so there you go. All right, I trust you. But anyway, I just want to tell you how much we appreciate you coming in and spending time with us. And anything I can do for you, you've done a lot for me as a coach, and made me a lot better coach than I am. Because having, and what was crazy, having two guys that were missed each other by a year on the same staff in the big leagues with you and Adam Wainwright, and I look there with St. Louis, and I'm popping with pride. It's nuts. But and that's the way with the guys I feel kind of really that are going to JUCOs and things like that. It's all about getting your education paid. That's why we do what we do. But I want you to tell everybody down there in Wayne County, and if you ever see my boy Ryan Aldridge down there, tell him I said hey, because I do think about Ryan. Ryan had probably one of the best. What round did Ryan go in? 4th, 5th? What was it?
No, I think he was a later round pick, but
Later
I
round
think
pick. He had one of the best pure arms I ever seen.
He got him 2 new hips too.
Huh?
He got him 2 new hips too.
Yeah, I mean he
Whole body jugger had hip replacement already.
Has he really?
Yes,
Wow.
sir.
Well, you guys are on the same high school staff and played professional baseball, so. But anyway, I just want to thank you again and all the knowledge that you gave us today, and I really enjoyed talking to you. Anything that I can do for you in the future, you let me know. And I hope those 2 boys know who their daddy is. And I know you outpunted your coverage on your wife, so that's a good job. That's good. And we love you. And you take care of yourself and you stay in touch, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, buddy. Take care.